talk a lot about the work that is being done in the ecosystem by the Women Enterprise Centers across the country. Janice Nixon, who's the Vice President of Programs and Partnerships for Futurepreneur, which really has made transformational investments. Any people in the room who have received funding from Futurepreneur? You should. It's good. There you go. There you go. And Julie Dimitri, who's the National Manager for Women in Enterprise at TD Bank. Who knew? So please welcome our friends. So just building on the discussions that have been, you heard in the earlier panel and what you do in your day-to-day work, let's talk about how digital technologies have created opportunities and maybe how things have shifted during COVID, even though we know that there is still a digital divide. Did you want to kick us off, Rosalind?
Sure. Good morning, Wendy.
Good morning.
To see you again. I think every time I come to Toronto, I see Wendy, which is great, and some other familiar faces. I probably didn't need to come at all because I should have just let Juliette come and say all those wonderful things about Peril. And you know, Juliette is saying a real demonstration of how women can empower each other and find solutions. And I think that's going to be the answer for women in Canada who are in business or supporting economic development in Canada. We have such a strong ecosystem with the Women's Entrepreneurship Knowledge Hub, with PERO is part of WEC. We are also one of the Women's Enterprise Organizations of Canada, as is Marcella here from Alberta, Women's Entrepreneur Organization. You know, we work with Casa Foundation. All of these, and I can say more, we work together every day. I don't know how many years we've worked with Futurepreneur. I just don't know how many. It's forever. And TD Bank has been a sponsor for years. Well, look at us here, right? We're here together. And that's what's going to make change. And why is that going to make change? Well, systems of power are set up in a way to support the mainstream and exclude others. We have to realize that individually, we cannot break down those systems of power. Whether it's around technology or financing or whatever, unless we come together. And each of us is just important to that. So we can't sit back and say, well, and this, I hear this all the time, and I always say, don't say that. I'm only a such and such business. No, you're not. You're a critical component of the women's sector in business. And we are strong, and we are knowledgeable, and we have to share that knowledge and resources, whether we're an organization or whether we're a woman entrepreneur who only has one person working in their business. That's how we will grow. So I think that's my biggest message, and Juliette, if you've heard her, is my best demonstration of what Peril Center for Women's Enterprise does and how she talked about doing it.
That's great. Thanks so much. I wonder if you want to jump in, Janice.
Sure, thank you. And thank you so much for the Casa Foundation for putting this together today. And I'm very proud to be on this panel. And I think that what COVID has provided us is, if there is a silver lining in COVID, is it's open the door to new opportunities. It's, you know, the digital divide may still exist, but it's made it more accessible. You know, prior to COVID, I couldn't imagine having a call on Zoom or Teams or Google Meet or whatnot. Like, we talked on the phone, and sometimes you wonder, are people even paying attention to the conversation? And being able to connect with people, you know, across the city, across the country, has really been an enabler to make good things happen. And I agree completely that we're stronger as women when we work together than when we work apart. And one of my favorite sayings is, empowered women, empower women. And, you know, in thinking about this conversation and the role that digital plays in supporting women entrepreneurs, you know, Ashley, you had said that entrepreneurship can be lonely, and it can. It also can be a team sport. And when you have the right people in your corner who are supporting you, from your mentor, from, you know, the bank that's providing you financing, from support organizations that, you know, are creating networking opportunities, it really, you can build strength within your network. And I think the important thing for us to consider is it's not only building hard skills, but building soft skills. Because so important is building confidence. We think about, you know, you gotta, you know, write a business plan. You have to understand your cash flow. You need to be able to pay yourself, pay your business, pay your loan. And all of that, what's important in this conversation is building confidence and recognizing that you're capable. And part of that capability is bringing people along with you in the journey.
Such a good point. I wonder, Janice, Julie, if you wanted to add something.
What was the question again?
I know, it sort of evolved. It really was looking at the issues around technology and how technology can be an enabler or a barrier, and things that we can do to bridge those gaps.
Well, yeah, I can add, and hearing from the panel before, I think building on your social networks, I think is a big gap. So as women entrepreneurs, this is one of the biggest gaps that we see is often funding is one, but having access to that social network. And so building our social networks to really be able to source that expertise and that knowledge so that we can build our knowledge around technology. I mean, I still ask my 19-year-old questions regarding digital stuff because she gets it much faster. And I think Ashley also mentioned the forum. Last week we were part of this amazing organization again that TV sponsors. And it was amazing to see young entrepreneurs absolutely embrace digital social media, like TikTok, for example, just made their organization boom. So there's definitely an opportunity for us to refine our knowledge, refine our skills with social media. Of course, I think maybe the government and financial institution could work better together to create more environment where women have a chance to access an environment where they encourage this knowledge, where they encourage that resource, and have more opportunity to build up our skills in digital.
Yeah, I think it's a good point. And you know, I've been working on women in technology since the Montreal Massacre, so 1989, 35 years, I guess. And today there are fewer women in computer science and only marginally more in engineering than there were 35 years ago. So the stuff that we're doing to try to encourage women in technology isn't really sticking. And I would argue that part of it is that we, in part because they're male-dominated disciplines, we mystify the technology. And in fact, it's becoming easier and easier and easier. And people are arguing, for instance, one of the impacts of AI is going to turn us all into application developers because it's becoming simpler and simpler and simpler. You don't have to be a computer scientist. to use the technology. And I think you've mentioned some of the platforms that are available and the fact that COVID really pushed that through. I don't know to what extent you've thought about the processes for driving change and what it is that you've seen in recent years that's made a difference. And again, I'll start with you, Rosalind, in terms of helping women start up and scale up their businesses, particularly when it comes to embracing technology to expand their market reach.
Well, I think we've talked a little bit about the difference of how women approach technology as to our male counterparts, right? Each of us talked about our social networks. We see social networks as a huge asset, and you know what? We're right. Technology is a tool, right? Technology is a tool. We went through COVID and actually was helpful in introducing new technologies to women who wanted to start, grow, and scale their business. Not wonderful about exporting, although they actually could go on trade missions online, which was an asset. You could get your feet wet, right? Even though you weren't actually stepping on other country soil, you could get your feet wet into exporting, so it became a little bit more comfortable. So I think that was really good. It forced women and government, because if you want to talk to government, they didn't want to use Teams or Zoom or anything like that. They felt the aliens were going to take us over if we did that. And then others were, well, I don't know how to use Zoom and so on. So we got in a position where we had to. We had no choice. So I think that helped us a lot. But it's just a tool. Now we have the tool to use it, but we also have the choice to not use it and to learn how to use it well. So it's not just, it's great that we were empowered and introduced to all the technologies, but they're changing all the time. So you have to constantly be keeping up. So what are we going to do? I think we need government to make policies to recognize that having internet access or Wi-Fi, knowledge about how to use technology is now a human right. Right? It shouldn't be for someone who has money or access through their work or whatever to have access to technology, and someone else who does not have that privilege to be let out. And that's where governments come in with policy. So we have to encourage government to have programs for training us and equal access for that as well, but also to see it as a right of every person in our country, no matter the situation. And I think that's something we can advocate for together.
I think that's such a good point, and you know, it's interesting because you're from Northern Ontario, so you know about the digital divide in terms of geography. I mean, there are communities in the north that don't have running water, they sure don't have high-speed internet. But one of the things we learned during COVID is even in a city like Toronto, 32% of racialized children were doing their homework on iPhones. 32% in one of the richest cities in the world, because they couldn't afford it. So it wasn't the technical access to the infrastructure, as Rosalind, as you said, it's a right, and it's becoming increasingly important, not just for running a business, but for attending school. And yet, 32% of kids who were racialized in the city of Toronto could not access what they needed in order to study. So search and replace entrepreneurs, business people, et cetera, et cetera. It's a massive, massive issue. What do you think, Julie? What would you add to the discussion?
I would add that very selfishly I will share. But so my team, as the national manager of Women in Enterprise, TD is actually investing in ways to bridge that gap, to increase more opportunity for women entrepreneurs. So my teams are across the country, and we actually work with a community of over 200 We Bankers. So We stands for Women in Enterprise. So what is a We Banker? They're actually accredited, and they are specialized in working with women entrepreneur and women-led organizations with hopefully, limited or very reduced biases. So the idea is to really help women, and it's more than just funding. Like when we speak to clients who have worked with We Bankers, they say that they felt coached, they felt supported, they felt that, the We Banker would roll up their sleeves and find different solutions so that we're really helping women-owned organization, women grow their organization. So I think definitely that's an area. And of course the bank, TD's always been a really strong believer of diversity and inclusion. And another way that they're trying to make sure that we bridge that gap is by investing in different teams that get very, very close to the community of clients that we're looking to service. So we have the Black community, of course, we have the LGBTQ+ community. We try to stay very relevant, and we want to make sure that we're offering tailored services. It's one of the TD's goals is to make sure that everybody, wherever you are, you have the right resources, the right tools to really feel confident in what the future holds for you. So that's one way.
And it's interesting you mention Black entrepreneurs and USLGBTQ+, because of course Al Ramsey is one of the first people in a bank across the country who has been dedicated to serving those communities, and TD was kind of ahead of the curve in that.
I heard that Al also started the Women in Enterprise, like he was one of the first person to start creating that initiative within the bank as well. So I have my job, I have him to thank for my job.
Well, and I think that's really an important issue, because often we put ourselves in boxes, or other people put us in boxes and say, women this, Black entrepreneurs that, and so on. But if you take an intersectional lens, you start to see the commonality across the experiences, and building solidarity amongst groups and across groups is absolutely critical.
If I can add, like, you should see here the group of TDers. It's really, really mixed. We have some wealth folks, we have members from my team, we have members from the Black community. Like, this is what we're trying to do, really remove those silos and work in collaborations, because we can achieve so much more.
Such a good point. Janice, I know Futurepreneur has embraced a sort of intersectional approach as well, big time.
So diversity and inclusion is one of our core values within Futurepreneur. And for those that don't know, we're a national nonprofit. We provide collateral-free loan financing and mentorship to help young entrepreneurs, 18 to 39, start a business, buy a business, grow a business. We are one of the only organizations across the country that does what we do. With every entrepreneur that we support, we match them with a mentor, and our mentorship program is 2 years. We recognize the importance of that 2 years of business start for an entrepreneur. It can be lonely, it can be challenging. Sometimes you just don't know what you don't know, and the mentor is there to provide you with key supports. So I think with the onset of COVID, so much of what Futurepreneur had done was in person. And so for us, embracing technology as an organization meant we could actually democratize the supports that we offer. I'll use our mentorship program as an example. We had one mentor recently say that pre-COVID, he really wanted to be matched with a mentor with whom that he could meet at a coffee shop. What COVID did, and through the use of different platforms, is it opened up the reach. So now a mentor in Montreal could be matched with an entrepreneur in Vancouver. Regionality wasn't the skew. And I think thinking about that, and your question about intersectionality, is it also opened the door to the types of programs we offered. When I think about women entrepreneurs, it allowed us the flexibility to meet women where are and not leave them behind. So thinking about offering a program at night versus during the day, to offering programs on weekends versus during the day, because maybe that nighttime or that nighttime service offering wasn't available. And really think about how we can be more intentional with the work that we do, the services we offer. And during COVID, with support from RBC, we launched the Black Entrepreneur Startup Program. So we launched that on March 24th, 2021. We're coming up on our anniversary, and to date we've supported almost 400 young entrepreneurs in starting and launching a business across Canada. Within that, 52% of the entrepreneurs we've supported have launched are women-led businesses. And that's across the board in terms of the work that we do. 44% of the businesses we've helped launch are women-led. And then when we look at Indigenous entrepreneurs, same numbers apply. 52% of the businesses started are women-led within Indigenous communities through support with Futurepreneur.
Well, and it's interesting to mention that because when you do disaggregate the data, Indigenous women more likely to be entrepreneurs, Black women more likely to be entrepreneurs, and in the South Asian community, they're almost at gender parity when you look at entrepreneurs. And some of that is push, like some of it is people who are excluded from other opportunities may turn to self-employment, but some of it is pull, some of it is recognizing opportunities to innovate and serve people. And I'm really glad you raised the issue of how platforms can bridge geography, because a lot of the work at incubators, accelerators, and so on before COVID was face-to-face. And I sort of used the analogy of, dating, right? So you go to the bar on Monday night and Wednesday night and Friday night looking for your perfect match, and they're actually there Tuesday and Thursday. And there was a lot of randomness in the connecting. And you're not there yet, in my view, where we have a really solid digital platform to connect people who need things and people who want things, but we're closer to that than we were 3 or 4 years ago. So just, we will give each of you a chance to wrap up, but looking at the time, I'm wondering if there are any questions or comments from the audience. Seem to be lots.
Thank you very much. Mark Borkowski, Mercantile Mergers and Acquisitions. We've been selling private mid-market businesses for 36 years. Collectively, our group have invested in about 11 different women's businesses. Great place to be. Ex-technology entrepreneur, SimTech Automation. 4 of us became 192 people in 4 years. We sold the company to Motorola 37 years ago. I don't have a question. I only have a little bit of advice for all the women entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs. No guts, no glory.
Thank you so much. And it's interesting because people talk a lot about confidence and attitudes, but we are socialized in very different ways. And even by grade 3, little girls are better than little boys, in math and in English. But when asked, are you good at math, are you good at English? Little boys are more likely to say yes. So what's the lesson in that?
Hello everyone. Thank you for the beautiful presentation by all the panelists. My name is Umu and I'm an international student from Northeastern University. I recently moved into Canada about 6 months ago, and back in my home country, I'm someone who have had to organize different campaigns for women and girls. And when I came in, I was looking out for opportunities. I started reaching out to organizations that the little that